A very warm welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us for our final segment. Today we are talking real estate. Remember, my name is Anthony, and to follow me, all you need to do is to go to your Twitter and type Anthony Sebale, and that's my handle. And you can also follow Smart24TV at Smart24TV. You can also visit our website at www.smart24tv.com for more of the latest business content. As it unfolds, we do, of course, bring it to your table. Now, Mr. Lutalo, as we get into the technology era, the smart urban ecosystem has become one of the talks in town. And when you talk about smart urban ecosystem, that's a lot to take in, for me at least personally, because first of all, when you talk about smart, we are talking about technology, leveraging technology and data-driven solutions. But when you also talk about the ecosystem, then we get into sustainability, environment, you get into integrating it with effectiveness, efficiency, and all that is what KCC is actually putting on board, trying to drive this into Kampala, and Kampala just being a model, but of course it's going to spread out to other areas. In your own opinion, what do you think should be the priority in KCC's drive for a smart urban ecosystem? What should be on top of their list?
Thank you very much. I think what the KCC leadership needs to, take cognizance of is we are now headed to the fourth industrial revolution, which is now Industry 4.0, which is about big data analytics, 3D, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and everything in that space. And we cannot be left out as a city. And I think government has done some, basics in terms of setting the foundation through NERA. I think they've laid the infrastructure in terms of ICT, for easier connected bit of the infrastructure. But for me, the low-hanging fruit from, a KCC perspective would be traffic management. And I know they're busy setting up a central traffic management center where we can now sit back and say, instead of waiting for the lights to release so and so, you can predict and say, look here, during, peak time between this and this, these are the traffic flows, so priority is given to this. Or there's a VIP coming, please can you clear even before they get there. So I think that will be the first step, because we'll be lying ourselves if we say we want to go full blown, digital and all that, because there's a lot that needs to be done. Because if you can do that and control the traffic, if you can manage your public transportation system in an organized way, and create bus lanes, put into place like the current buses we have, and say, okay, they have a dedicated lane. And you see, KCC for so much time has been talking about relocating the taxi parks to, the suburbs, so that only buses come into, because you need to make it, easy onto the users to make sure, okay, if I sit on a bus from, Namanve, I'm going to have a good ride. It is okay, it's clean, it has a priority sort of line, and all these things. So from a technology and sustainable bit of it, because the rest of the interventions could be costly, if I can put it that way. For example, if you were to start recycling waste from Kampala cities, you go to Chitezi, all those places where you dump garbage, you have to put in a lot of investment to recycle, all this to be able to even generate energy, to be able to drive a sustainability agenda. If you look at, energy, again, if you want to say, let's get off hydro and do more of, solar and all the other, sustainable energies, it's going to cost you a lot of money to do that. But if, for example, you said, let's come up with ways of, getting water, recycling it, using it to, do the watering of, landscape and all
intelligent waste management.
Intelligent waste management. So all these come with a lot of capital investment. That's why at times some people even think maybe if you planned another city somewhere, it would be much easier, because every time you talk about, an intelligent city, it's connectivity. I need to be able to walk in and tell me, okay, there's an offer in Acacia Mall for, Woolworths, this. Everywhere you go, your information is available quickly. So to put that into play can be easy. But now when you move it to another level, we're scaling up to a level where now you can know at any one moment how many people are in Kampala City. Are you taking count of these guys? How many taxis have come in? Can you be able, because let me bring it down to like a building level. the buildings in this, sort of Africa, where when you get in and your number plate is logged in, they know which park you've gone to. When you come in, the building parking is full, you won't be given access automatically. The board barrier will not open. You're sorry, the park is full.
Yeah.
So can we know that, look here, for today we have enough borders into the city? Because
I think
we've hit enough, CO2 emissions for that day.
Yeah.
Can we control it? Things like that.
You're stepping on some toes now, Mr.
Yeah, so for me, we need to look at the low-hanging fruit would be, can we manage the traffic better? I think that will start the journey. But sustainability, automation, all those other things, the fancy things which cities like in Netherlands are doing, we can aspire to get there, but there's some structural challenges that we have in the country that might not be as easy. I mean, even if we talked about recycling the water, Kampala is down in a valley, 7 hills. All that water is coming. Where are you going to hold it from? When people are building in swamps, all that. So there's quite some challenges that we need to work with, but most of it requires a lot of funding. Talk
about environment, because now you bring the issue of flooding, and I remember the fact that in Kampala, most areas when it rains, you will not cross those roads, and I've seen traffic held for hours until the water had to cross. And these are areas that are in very urban centers. Chireka, you're talking about Boise, and so many. And those are areas where we used to access the city. When you talk about sustainability, the smart ecosystem, one of the objectives is, of course, fight climate change and also try to live in harmony with the environment. In your consultancy, as a real estate consultant, what do you tell your clients when it comes to the environment? Because I understand most people would want to conserve the environment, but then you find that the areas in the wetlands, in the swamps, first of all, are more affordable, they are easier to access, and you find even government sometimes reluctantly allowing investors, to actually set up industries in these areas. So you find the public is saying, okay, if they can set up a factory there, I think I can also build a house here, right? So what advice do you give to your clients when it comes to constructing houses, building properties in places that are not harming the environment?
Thank you. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. When you go into a swamp area and you're buying a piece of land, there's vegetation that is very clear that this grows in a swamp. So if I'm Moses Rutala and I want to buy a piece of land in Kawempe and I found, certain vegetation, I'll tell you, sorry, I can't buy it, even if the land is not marshy. But because of the vegetation, that's at an individual level, out of curiosity and knowing. But I can tell you this country has laws governing. If you look at, for example, on a residential development, the plan guidelines tell you can only build up to 40% of the entire plot. So meaning you leave the rest to be green and water. But if someone builds on the entire plot of land, the water that is the surface runoff water, and when you do that, now you want to cast so that water can't even, you've paved everything, that water has to end up somewhere. So if only our people were keen on regulation and follow regulation to the letter, we don't have the challenges we have. And I think NEMA has been very vocal in some of these things, but as some of the challenges are beyond them. But we need to know that, look, as an individual, I will not buy land in a swamp, however cheap it is. So if people at an individual level can understand that, then even the investors who are buying land to sell it to people in swamps will be very keen on not doing that. Because if I'm Moses Rutala and Sons and we have an estate in Charlie Wajala, wherever, part of it is a swamp, and I get 10 buyers and they come and say, no, we want to buy that plot because it's in a swamp, it's okay. If it's a loss to me, next time I'll not. But what happens is, because we think that land is cheaper, we rush to buy it. So for me, if we can only follow the regulation, we will be at least somewhere in time to curb that.
How can the real estate developers, because they control this, I feel like they have more control than the clients, right? Because they have these estates and, they say, okay, this one is this much, this one is this much. They control the pricing. How can they balance the need for profitability with the sustainable and equitable urban development?
Yes.
Because they're also in business. Yes. You find it tricky sometimes. They want to make money and you can't blame them for that. But, what can they do?
Because, you see, for me, on the developer's side, yes, there could be an issue there. But my thinking is, first of all, it's very expensive to build in a swamp. First things. So if I'm to build a house in low-lying land and the one that is in dry land, the one in low-lying land will be expensive. I need to do more, preparation, geotechnical surveys and many other things. So it's expensive. So which means the developer will have to sell it more expensively than a house. So that's why you see that more reasonable developers do not want to touch marshal land unless they're getting it for free. That's when they will want to touch it. So we need to make sure, one, at the investor side, they understand that, but also the professionals. And I know all the professionals that are regulated understand these guidelines. And because right now we even have the National Building Review Board, all these other bodies trying to reach out. NEMA is now even more, engaging. So we have to make sure the professionals do their work.
Yeah.
Then once you've told a guy, don't build this, don't do this, and you do it, they know how the recourse is, how they go about this. You're against the law, and then action has to be taken. So we need to sensitize the public, the impact. The floods are saying in Kampala, they need to know it's going to come to them along the way. Because the environment has spoken. We cannot reverse, this thing if we're not deliberate about what we're doing. The laws are there, we just don't want to follow them for whatever reason.
Now, moving back slightly to what I had actually mentioned in the first place, the rental business and the business of ownership. There are people who would say, don't rent. It's a very bad thing to rent because you're spending a whole lot of money on a property which you're never going to own anyway. And then they say, the first thing you do before you buy a car, before you do anything, make sure you have a property, make sure you have land, And some people get so stressed up by that. As a business consultant in this area, when do you think someone can start crossing from the renting to ownership? Because on this show we have university students, we have people who have just come out of university, we have people who have worked for 10 years watching the show, and they probably want to hear from an expert how they can actually move from renting to ownership, or when they should actually do that, or when they're better off actually staying in the renting rather than owning a property.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that question is really subjective. For example, if you're still single and you don't have a family, you should be able to rent. There's no security. You can move at any one time. In fact, you want flexibility, But once you start getting a family, you're married, you have kids, then there's security of tenure. People need to feel comfortable. This is our home just in case things happen. For me, that's what I would consider. If I was single, I don't have family, I don't see a reason why I should be spending that money in building a house, because I can invest it better and earn a return. But once you start having a family, now your risk parameters change significantly. Your kids have to be in a secure roof, then you want to think about owning a house. But ultimately, it's a question of how you want to look at money, because someone who is doing investment analysis will have a different view, because every time you have capital, allocating it is a function of what is my risk and return objective. Someone will tell you, look here, if I'm renting, it becomes a tax deductible. Yet if I have a house, you understand it? So there's that school of thought, and someone says, look here, if I have a tenant agreement for 3 years and I'm paying $1 million shillings, I can actually use it as a deductible when I'm filing my personal return. Now that's someone who is tax, astute. But for an individual, it's like, I own. And usually Ugandans, like owning things. It's prestige, you have a home and all that. So the way you balance it out, and your risk situation and your return objectives is what is going to inform that decision. And it will be personal to each individual. It cannot be generalized. Some people will tell you, no, I'll never own a house because whatever money I'm spending on rent is a tax deductible for me. And they're happy with that. Other guys say, no, I want to build my personal balance sheet. I want to build equity. I want to be told, my house is worth so much. So that is a very sort of personalized, decision. You need to look at your current circumstances and say, okay, what's the best? But a combination of both. The people who will argue for owning a house outrightly, especially if you have a family. But for me, my personal view is, if you're still single, out of university, unless you're getting a very good mortgage rate, you can rent and build capital of other investments as you wait it out.
Wow, interesting. I think that was a very helpful answer for many people, because the pressure is usually high on certain individuals. You find someone is single, but because they have worked for 3 years, everyone is putting them on pressure, and it gets stressing sometimes. Getting to look at the trends in real estate, what are some of the most promising emerging trends when you talk about real estate? I've seen, for example, in storage buildings, there used to be these pillars, the column pillars, concrete pillars.
Yes.
Now you have steel, and sometimes they are discouraged by, for example, regulatory bodies.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's for safety reasons or whatsoever. But then we've seen them work elsewhere. In I think in European countries, mortar and brick is quite rare now. Steel and metal has become the order of the day when it comes to even the smaller buildings, not just skyscrapers and stuff. What do you think, where are we headed in terms of the future of real estate, the emerging trends that people should be actually looking up to if they are starting to construct a house, leaving alone the old mentality of mortar and brick?
Of course, in terms of the trends, at an asset class level, we're seeing emergence of things like data centers that were not here previously, but now we're seeing a lot of, because of cloud computing, people need to invest in data centers. So that's one of the new things that are coming up. Student accommodation is quite, because again we are getting more and more students to the university. There's so much little accommodation for them. Of course, industrial parks, free zones, is also another big thing because of investors coming into the market. Again, that's in terms of asset classes. Affordable housing, is the next big thing because the demand will always outstrip supply. We're seeing less interest in, formalized prime retail in terms of CBD, prime shopping centers. The appetite is kind of, shaky for the investors right now, but they're preferring the strip malls out of the, neighborhoods like Nigeria, Nalia, those strip malls that are coming up. Offices, if you look at the top end of the market, I think we are seeing a lot more demand within the, green rated buildings.
Those are the commercial buildings.
The commercial properties. Your typical occupiers are going to be asking for things like, we need, green lead, certified building, which is energy efficient and all that. So most of the investors today who are looking into investing in those particular asset classes, those are some of the things they're looking out for.
And what do you mean by green? Does it mean like the building has a section for plants or something, or it's actually something else?
Green rated buildings are those buildings that are environmentally sustainable, meaning your net carbon emission is almost zero. That's what we're trying to achieve through the global targets that have been set. We need to reduce, because if you look at real estate, generally speaking, 40% of the CO2 emissions globally come from real estate as a sector. Now, out of that 40%, almost 60% of it is during the operation of the building. How much energy are you consuming? How much water are you recycling? All that, construction generators and all that. So if we can manage that, then we'll be achieving the targets that have been set. So most of the big organizations are telling if I'm to be in your building and it is green rated in terms of energy efficiency, water recycling, all these other things. Even the construction methodology, by the way, is part of the green certification of a building. So if they can be in such buildings, then they're getting some scores highly and saying okay, you're compliant, your sustainable goals are being achieved and all that. That's on the investment side. On the maybe the other one thing that is also coming up so much is the technology, how we do business in properties, what we call now prop tech. I don't know if you've heard about prop tech. Is basically technology enabling real estate, whether it is construction, management, everything, automation. Actually at Brawl, we do offer that service where we can tell people, okay, we have a technology solution. So technology is big on the agenda because you can't drive sustainability and efficiency without technology. You need to know how much water do I use in a day, how much of that is recycled. You need to measure all these. How much power do I draw from the main grid? How much am I getting from my solar panels? And technology is going to enhance that. Then also the user experience. If it is evacuation, everyone keying in their car, they know, on this floor there is someone. We've got 10 people, there are 15 people, so 5 are still stuck in the building. So that sort of technology is important. On the construction side, of course, earlier on I talked about alternative ways of construction, and steel is one of them. A challenge with steel we've had is the cost. If the cost was quite comparable with the brick and mortar, probably people would be looking at steel structures. And there's buildings that have been built out of steel here. Crested Towers is one of them. It's a steel structure. It was built in 1970s or thereabouts. So, yeah, steel has, but the problem with steel, it's still expensive. And with the challenges out of Ukraine and all that, it has actually even exacerbated the situation beyond reach. So we're still stuck in that. People are prospecting on timber houses, people are prospecting on, styrofoam, concrete sort of products, but everything rotates around the key inputs, which is cement. Styrofoams, I don't think is even environmentally friendly. So, yeah, those trends.
We used to have asbestos, which is now phasing out for the roofing.
Absolutely. That's a clear disaster to environment, so that had to be phased out. But we'll see more and more modular, we're getting to 3D printing nowadays. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about 3D printing. You bring a house and it's already built, you just assemble it on site and that's it. Panels are brought.
And if you're moving away,
you disassemble it and take it away. So we're getting there. Those are the new trends within. Actually, that is a good solution for affordable housing, low-cost housing, not even affordable, because low-cost housing, where you're targeting people living in slums, all that, where you can do mass housing. Wow, that's quite interesting. And finally, what are some of the key lessons that you have learned from successful examples of urban real estate development over the years in your consultancy in other parts of the world, but also because I know this company, like you said, is based in South Africa, and definitely your consultancy now is past just Uganda and so on, and even Africa probably. So what have you learned across the board, and how can it be applied, especially in the local context? Yes. I think the one thing for me that stands out, my experience with this sector, boils down to one thing. Always do the business case, run the numbers, do the mathematics. Because let's not invest in the sector out of gut feeling. So and so is doing it, let me do it. And the only way you do that is by engaging professionals. Professionals who can do for a business plan or feasibility study, professionals who will design a good project for you, professionals who will market it for you, professionals who will sell it for you. Now, the biggest problem we have with our developers is, Moses is doing it, let me do it, I'll get there. You're in a different location, the site is different, the demographic is different, then you get your fingers burnt. And more than often, our investors here call you when they've already built it. They're like, I put up something, come and look at it.
Yes.
And you're telling him, but you shouldn't have built this way. You're trying to put, square pegs into circles. You've already missed that bit. It is important that you get the professionals involved across the value chain. Like we talked about land acquisition, box ticked off. Feasibility, box ticked off. Design. Environment, box ticked off. It might seem to be lengthy and maybe costly at some point, but the value you drive out of that is going to be, enormous. You're going to sit back and say, wow, I looked at this, I looked at that, I looked at that. So most of our investors, especially people, are putting in quite a bit of money. If you're doing your residential house, there's things you might get away with. But if you're doing an investment, and that investment you put in your life savings, or you're going to a bank to borrow, you need to do your homework. I cannot overemphasize that, because most of the failed projects, as we might call them in this market, are because people choose not to follow professional advice. I've done it, my father did it, I know it all, I can do it. The market is changing significantly. There's so many moving parts, there's so many efficiencies that professionals will bring for you to deliver a solid project.
Wow, interesting. Finally, as we wind up the show, tell us about Brol and what you guys have to offer, especially to your clients, but also to people who don't know the importance of consultancy when it comes to property. Yes, we understand property developers have taken the bigger stage, but then the consultancy bit, probably in Uganda, people have not actually given it more ears. Yet from our discussion, I see you even need more of the consultants, even way before you deal with the developers. Talk about your business and how people can actually access your help.
Thank you very much. Yes, Brol, we are a South African brand, Pan-African business. We are headquartered in Sandton. We have 14 countries across Africa, and we offer, real estate consulting services. We do facilities management, we do valuation of properties, we manage properties, we do retail consulting, we do broking. We sell and, on behalf of people and buy properties.
Yeah.
We represent occupiers. We do building condition audits. We do life cycle costing for projects. But most important, we also offer technology solutions to our clients. So if you have a property and you want to manage it yourself, but you're stuck with information, how to manage it, how to invoice your tenants and all that, we can offer that solution. If you want your property valued, we can offer that solution. If you want us to manage your property, we can manage it for you. If you want us to lease, sell, get for you tenants for your property, we are there for you. So that's really what Brawl does, and we've done it for the last 45 years.
Wow.
And most importantly, our systems are all ISO certified. So for us, that is a differentiator in the market, and we own our technology platforms as Brawl.
Wow.
So when you come to us and say, I have 3 buildings that I'm stuck managing with, we'll give you a system, migrate your data for you, and you run your business for yourself.
Sounds like you're dealing with really the big boys. Do you also help the smaller sized properties, people who own a few rentals here and there and are stuck with maybe they want to value their property, maybe they are looking for tenants? Do you also help them actually tackle this?
Absolutely, we do that, because the very essence of our technology offering is to make sure it is scalable at every level, all geographies, one platform, offer cloud.
Wow.
So we're able to offer that, and scalable, whether it's 1 unit, whether it's 100 units or 10 units, in Barara, in Gulu, it's scalable. That's what technology is offering.
Where can you be found?
Our offices at Renzori House, ground floor, plot 1, Lumumba Avenue.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Lutalo, for the discussion and for the wonderful insights.
Thank you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I was with Mr. Lutalo Moses, who is from Brawl, and Brawl, as he has mentioned, is a real estate consultancy. We've shared quite a number of things on real estate here in Uganda, the current trends that are trending, and of course what you need to know before you own, before you buy, how you can finance your real estate dream, and so many other things. So you can follow up this show. If you've missed something, you can go back to our YouTube channel, that's at Smart24 TV, and get to follow through. You can still always keep watching back and forth. My name is Anthony, and I've been your host. I'll catch you next time, same place. Bye for now.